Back again with another conference tournament breakdown, looking at the bracket, looking at initial matchups, looking at potential matchups, looking at the futures market, champion picks, sleepers, busts. We got you all covered. Nick, what are you thinking when you first look at this SEC tournament bracket?
Yeah, man, it's a really good bracket. It's really intriguing. Honestly, not a whole lot of value, I feel like, but it is wide open, which sets up for a nice dark horse. So, what are your thoughts on it?
So, I mean, you've got four teams, with 5-1 or better odds to win it. The four double bye teams, obviously, four teams that think they can make the Final Four better in the NCAA tournament. So, the SEC probably the second best league in the country this year. And the reason why is because you've got teams like South Carolina better than they were supposed to be. A&M has played themselves back into the tournament. Florida's really good. Mississippi State is solid. Arkansas is bad but talented and playing better. So what I'm interested before we get into our champion picks, do you think any of these, teams that don't have a double bye have a chance to win it? Because I'm seeing Florida 20-1 on DraftKings, South Carolina, plus 6,000. Those are two teams that have been really good this year. Do we think either of them could, run the table and win?
Yeah, so I'll start with this. We're both pretty high on Florida overall, but that loss to Vanderbilt over the weekend, that put a sour taste in my mouth. I did not like seeing that, honestly. It doesn't really, I don't really downgrade them in my power rankings, but still, I just, walked away saying wow, that is unacceptable. You guys cannot lose to them. With that being said, Alabama's in a real funk. I mean, in my opinion, they're pretty lucky to beat Arkansas at home. It went to overtime. I mean, I just am not high on Alabama, and I know the metrics love them missing that. I mean, Florida beat them once at home. They should have beat them at Alabama. Another OT win for Bama. They really should have swept them. So they have a good draw there. Getting Missouri, who hasn't won a game, all season in the SEC, and then Georgia, who's also not great. And then they played Team Bama, who they match up really well with, and then versus Kentucky, they split 1-1, I believe. They could also have swept them. So I mean, they have a pretty good draw at 20-1. That's a good value shot. I think for another double bye or just one bye team, I think South Carolina 60-1. I mean, they got a tough path though. I mean, but still, South Carolina is just I hate to say a team of destiny, but that's what they feel like almost, just overperforming every game. Any 50-50 ball is kind of like an 80-20 ball for them. They just they find a way to get lucky sometimes, and that's just how teams are.
Yeah. The number on South Carolina is crazy. They continue to get no one respects them, and they're gonna be a 5 or 6 on Selection Sunday, and everyone's gonna want to pick the 11 or 12 against them. Yeah. That's just who this team's been. But they're good. They're a good basketball team. They're not amazing. I don't think they have a Final Four run or anything like that on the table. But if I'm a Gamecock fan and I'm going to this tournament and I'm I'm getting plus 6,000 to bet on them to win it, I love it. But I will say this: I think I feel much different about South Carolina if they're flip flop with Florida, because as you said, Florida has a great path, and even though you have two really talented teams in your way in Alabama and Kentucky, you play the same flavor of basketball. You're offensive-minded, up and down teams, and Florida has arguably the best bigs of any of those three teams, right? So it's I think Florida has an awesome matchup, and then the SEC is just interesting as a league, right? Just with the pace and the offenses of these teams, because I was about to say, you've got the three fast teams, the Florida, Kentucky, Alabama, those fast offensive-minded teams. But you look at Tennessee, Auburn, they're not trying to grind you out. Tennessee and Auburn can play up and down too, right? But Tennessee and Auburn, I still think, are the two scariest teams moving forward and in this tournament, because of the fact that they can go both ways and that they play both ends more than Kentucky and Alabama do, right? But I think in terms of Florida, they couldn't have asked for a better draw than to avoid Tennessee or Auburn until the final and let Tennessee and Auburn play each other. I do think Tennessee and Auburn are going to play each other. Maybe Arkansas gets hot, probably not. South Carolina, Auburn beat them by 40 in their place. That's kind of a really tough matchup for them. And then LSU, I've never really taken seriously. Mississippi State, Tennessee could be a close game. That could sneakily be a close game up there. But yeah, it brings me back to Florida as my favorite future bet in this tournament. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the top of the bracket is chalk. I do think we're going to see Tennessee Auburn in the semis there. The bottom is where a lot of crazy stuff can happen because honestly, Texas A&M they beat Kentucky this year. They can beat Kentucky again. Kentucky's just a wild card. In my opinion, if you want to take a long shot, this is a perfect conference just because of the volatility of the conference. Like you had mentioned, defense is not no team hangs their hat on defense. It's all offense.
Mississippi State. League. Give Mississippi State some credit.
Mississippi State, yeah, true. They are pretty much the one team. A little bit Ole Miss, and South Carolina too. But yeah. Are there any key matchups? Right away, we have 4 matchups. Any games you like right away, or any matchups you want to have, you need to have for a betting line?
I would probably take Florida against Alabama, and I don't think we'd have to pay. I think we're probably catching 3. Right? I think a really interesting game in that so A&M just rinsed Ole Miss on the road. Ole Miss completely pissed away their chances at the tournament. So maybe you're getting a desperate team coached by Chris Beard with some talent, but I think Texas A&M is kind of playing well lately. I think that A&M Kentucky game you bring up is very interesting because A&M is drunk. I actually hate watching them play, to be honest. I hate their style of basketball, and I don't know why every single offensive rebound goes to Anderson Garcia, but it does. Now part of me is kind of sucking back to also when we say this league is what's interesting about Tennessee and Auburn is they're both top 6 KenPom defense teams, but they'll be in these high scoring battles with the Kentuckys, the Floridas, the Alabamas, and each other. Tennessee and Auburn played, and it was an up and down game, right? So it's interesting because they can beat teams by 20, 30, in the quarters, and they might do just that. That Tennessee Auburn game is going to be awesome in the semis, and I think we're going to get it. But then it also brings me back to I feel like this happens to me every year, or not every year because the Sheboy era of Kentucky was different. But I feel like Kentucky always looks really good in the SEC tournament, and then I tell myself they're gonna get back to the Final Four. Whether it was the De'Aaron Fox team or the Jamal Murray, Tyler Eulis team. I don't know. I think those are the 2 teams that stand out, but. Kentucky's really good, and watch them go win this tournament, and then everyone's going to want to put them in their Final Four, and then they lose in the Sweet 16. I get a little bit of a feel for that, but it brings me back to Tennessee and Auburn just have a level of consistency that Kentucky and Alabama don't have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really like Kentucky too, man. I was on them over the weekend, +9 versus Tennessee, and they won outright. Just a great spot. High ceiling. This team has so much talent, so many NBA players on it. Calipari's been there, done that. Plus 400. It's really not a bad price at all. I mean, I think the team that wins obviously comes from the bottom. I don't think Tennessee and Auburn, I do believe is the best 2 teams in the SEC, but I don't think either of them wins this tournament. Honestly, I think 2 long shots. A&M 100-1 just because of how much they need us on the bubble. Florida's legitimacy at 20-1, and then Kentucky at +400. Those are 3 good teams all out of the bottom. And if Alabama struggles, I don't see them getting there. So I wouldn't mind holding, any of those 3 tickets getting to the championship.
2 things. 3. One is I agree with what you just said. My second thing is, in any of the other leagues we've looked at, has there ever been the top 2 teams in odds are on the same side of the bracket? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's another big thing I was looking at too. I just was thinking you have Tennessee +130 and Auburn +260. They're going to match up in the semis. So, I mean, all the value is you need if you take a price on Florida, Texas A&M, they have to beat Bama at +450 and Kentucky +400. That's much better than taking a long shot on the top side, where they have to play Tennessee +130 and Auburn +260.
That's why South Carolina's odds are so low because you got to beat Tennessee and Auburn before you make the championship.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think Florida and A&M are fun dart throws. We got to give a couple. Texas A&M feels like more of a dark horse than Florida. And what I will say about Alabama is I agree. They haven't been playing as well lately. I understand the knocks of them. I understand that they're lifted up in terms of KenPom. in Vegas because of just their offense, like in aggregate, like is historically great, but at the same time, like it doesn't really translate to them. It doesn't always translate to winning, right? But I will say Alabama, if they lose to Florida, which I definitely think they can or will, I would really like to back Alabama in the NCAA tournament because I still think that once they get outside the SEC, there's still a team that has an ultra high ceiling in that can beat any team in the country when they're playing well.
Yeah, no doubt. The funny thing, and maybe you can make a case for Alabama being due, but from like the 15-minute mark in the second half when they played Tennessee to the first like 10 minutes, I think, versus Arkansas, they had missed 24 threes in a row. Yeah, no one is talking about it on Twitter, and I have no idea how, but because I bet on versus Tennessee, and they didn't make it through since the 16-minute mark in the second half, and I kept track. I turned on the Arkansas game; they were 0 for 9. Just crazy.
They played Florida in between though. You skipped the game.
That's what I meant. I meant the Florida game. That's what I meant. I meant the Florida game, not the Arkansas game. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, they were 5 for 23 against Florida and scored 87.
That's the game I meant. My bad. I got it mixed up.
You're good. But yeah, you just look at these games they've lost. The games that Alabama lost, right, in SEC play. They surrendered 105 points, 81 points, 117 points, 99 points, 91
Worst
points.
Defense on the road in the SEC. They were ranked 14th. That's like they can't get stops. On a neutral, I'm not sure that changes either.
And it's like the numbers guys on Twitter make these charts, right? And Alabama is just like I didn't even explain. I feel like you know what I'm talking about before I even explained the chart. It's like can teams win it's the Virginia problem. It's the opposite of the Virginia problem. Yeah. It's can Alabama win a game that's a little bit lower scoring? And it's like no. And every game they lost, they gave up a ton of points. And it's because no matter how well they're playing offense, like if they're playing a team that they can't stop, like they're not going to win. Their only solution is, hey, we'll outscore you. It's never we're going to get stops. Like, and that's what is crazy because they've been a team that's hovered around, like they've been in the top 10 in KenPom basically all year long. And it's like this team has majorly flawed at the same time. So they're an interesting one, but it all brings us back to what we started off with that we think there's a lot of value on 20-1 for Florida with the path they've got.
Sure. No doubt. Last thing, any bust, anyone you just absolutely do not want to bet a future on here or just want to avoid overall?
I would say Auburn because you're not getting enough value for a team that's got to beat Tennessee in the semis, right? Like, if you think Tennessee wins this tournament, like take them now because you're going to be. What do you think that Tennessee Auburn line would be? Tennessee -4?
It'd be I don't know. Probably be a possession. Just the way that the odds are right now.
It's crazy. That's what Tennessee is to win this tournament, though, because you know what I bet it is. It's because if Tennessee's playing Bama, Kentucky, Florida, or A&M in the ship, they're probably Tennessee, Auburn could all be laying like a bit of a number there.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, like I am high on Auburn. Honestly, like I think they have a really high ceiling. Just plus 260 for the SEC tournament. It doesn't get it done for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning into the SEC tournament breakdown. Let us know in the comments what you guys think for this game, and stay tuned to the channel. We've got all the Power Six of these up. So appreciate you guys. Thank you.